For a basic bendy doll, you need one pipe cleaner, some embroidery floss to wrap her arms and legs with, a pair of scissors, a couple of markers, and for her head, you need a large wooden bead, approximately 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters in diameter, with a large hole, and for her hair, you can use thin yarn or more embroidery floss. Colors are entirely up to you. First, we want to divide our pipe cleaner for arms and legs. So you can find 1/3 of your pipe cleaner or measure and get a piece that's about 4 inches and snip it. So now you have two pieces, a 4-inch piece, this is the arms, and an 8-inch piece, which is for the legs. Take the long leg piece, fold it in half, and you can place it up inside your bead. At the top, you want to open it a little bit to make yourself a loop. This is where we're going to put her hair. To get her hair ready, I like to take my thin yarn or floss, whichever I'm using, and wrap it around something like this CD case. So I'm going to hold one end of my yarn up top and begin wrapping. Depending on the thickness of your yarn or floss, about 26 to 30 wraps will be enough, and it'll still fit inside the head of your doll. Once you've finished wrapping, just carefully slide it off whatever you've used as a wrapping mechanism, and try to keep your fingers on it so that you don't lose the loops. Then you're going to grab your scissors and carefully snip both ends. You might get some little tiny stragglers. Don't worry, you can just yank those out. You want to line up both pieces of your hair so that you've got all of your ends together. Grab the head of your doll and thread all of it through that loop. Then you want to try and make sure that it's relatively even on both sides. And you can start to pull the legs back down through your bendy doll, making sure that your legs and your feet are even at the bottom. And then you want to pull as hard as you can to get most of your pipe cleaner back down into the head of your bendy doll. If a little bit sticks out, it's okay. But you want to try to pull as much of it as you can in so that your hair sticks out nice and evenly and you have a natural little part. Next we take the arm piece, put it over top right underneath the ball, or the bead I should say, of your bendy doll, with a little bit more to one side, and then you're going to wrap one arm around the other once, and that tightens your arms into place. And that's the doll. Now we just need to wrap it. So grab your embroidery floss. You're going to start with one end. I like to put my thumb over top of the end of my floss, somewhere in the middle of the torso of the doll. And then on an angle, I begin on an angle, I wrap across one shoulder and under the opposite armpit of the doll. So over one shoulder, under the armpit, and I do that a couple of times. Then I wrap under the armpits of both a couple of times, and then the opposite shoulder and the opposite armpit. And if your hair wants to try and get involved, just keep tugging it out of the way. This secures our floss, It also secures the arms and the legs of the doll. And once you've done that a couple times, you should have a little bit of an X showing. You can start to move out towards one arm. So we're going to wrap our floss all the way around one arm. Try to keep most of your wraps together. It's a little tight right up next to the head. And if there's a little bit of your fluff from your pipe cleaner showing through, don't worry about it because we're going to wrap our way back too. Try to keep them as close together as possible. Once you get near the end of the arm, you can wrap once or twice there. Try not to let it go all the way off the end, and then start working your way back. And you're going to wrap just as neatly as you did on the way down, trying to keep all of your wraps relatively close to each other. It is a little tricky right here at the end. There we go. You're going to work back about 1/3 of the way up the arm of your doll. And then you're going to take the end of the arm and bend it over to make a little hand. So just squish it in half like that. And now you're going to wrap over top of the hand. So about halfway across the hand, you're going to wrap a couple times nice and tight as you can, because you don't want those little loops slipping off the end of your hand. So make sure the whole hand and where it joins itself on the wrist of your doll is nice and covered. And now you can work your way wrapping your yarn or your floss here all the way back to the torso of your doll. Once you're back up to the doll, you can wrap around the torso a couple times. So shoulder opposite armpit, around the bottom of the torso, and then opposite shoulder and opposite armpit, just a couple times. And now you're going to repeat the same thing going out the other arm. So flip your doll over. You're now working on the other arm, and repeat the same instructions for the next arm and her hand. Once you've wrapped the other arm, and you've done the same little X over the body with your wrapping to secure those arm wraps in place, we're going to wrap the torso. You might still have a little bit of your sort of beginning bit of floss showing, and that is going to eventually get all wrapped up and covered. You're going to wrap a little bit of both of the leg pipe cleaners together. So down and then back up. Just a little ways, because you want to create a bit of a torso for your doll. And once you've done that, you're going to split your pipe cleaners and start working on one of the legs. And you're going to wrap the leg all the way to the end and repeat like you did for the arms. So you're going to make a little foot, and then you're going to wrap all the way back, and then you're going to do the same thing for the other leg. Once you get all the way back up to the torso, wrap your thread around the torso a couple times, and then begin the second leg. Once you get the second leg done, you can wrap your floss around the torso of your doll a few more times. Grab your scissors, snip your floss, and now you want to knot off. And you can do this in a couple of ways. I like to actually just knot my floss all the way around the torso of my doll. So I just make a big loop and pass my floss through it. And I'm going to do this several times, or until the floss gets too short that I can't actually wrap and knot around my doll anymore. Once you've knotted your floss as often as you can do one of two things to secure it. You can put a little glue down and glue down the end of your floss, or grab yourself a needle with a large enough eye that you can fit your embroidery floss through it, and just weave it under a couple of those wraps, and see how many you can get your needle under, all the way down the length of the torso of your doll. And if you're weaving your floss back and forth like I am, that will help keep it from undoing. And that way you don't need any glue. And once you've done that a few times, you can just trim off any excess and your little bendy doll is done. When trimming, try not to get anything else. You don't want to trim any of your wraps, and you don't want to cut the hair of your doll by accident. You also don't want to cut your fingers. There we go. Now let's give our girl a face. This is where you want some markers. Fine pointed tip ones are nice and handy for this. You can be as elaborate or as simple as you like with your little face. I like to give my dolls a very simple face. So I'm just going to put down a couple of little eyes. One on either side of her face. I start with a really small little black dot, and I get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I flip her over, and I make sure that I'm roughly on the opposite side of her face, and I do the same thing. And if I think they should be a little bit bigger, I can go back and forth, adjusting their size until I like what I see. Yeah. So that's it for her eyes. Now I'm going to give her a little bit of blush. So that's what my pink marker's for. And I'm going to do just a little simple oval underneath each eye. There we go. There. And now she looks like she's blushing. Now you can take your Bendy doll and dress her in any way that you like. And we've got a link to a very basic dress tutorial in the description box down below. But there you go. That's your basic Bendy doll.